Choose you. So many decisions that you have to make. Confusing, overwhelming, scared you'll make a mistake, second guessing yourself, trying to see what you do. Whatever you decide, be sure to choose you. Life is to be lived, lessons to be learned. Give yourself a little credit. Collect what you've earned. Empower yourself. Take a mental break too. Wherever you go, be sure to choose you. You matter. You're worth it. What I say is true. In the end, you're gonna win, but you got to choose you. Hello, 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 and welcome to Choose You Talk Show. And I'm your host, Delphany Polk. Today's topic is making molehills into mountains. Molehills into mountains. Many people have the habit of making molehills into mountains. They give them more weight than necessary and make them bigger than life. But does that do us any good? How many times have we found ourselves taking a small situation and enlarging it, making it bigger, so much bigger than it really necessarily has to be? When a person inflates the situation, it gets exaggerated. And if it doesn't, they have like no adrenaline rush. It's almost like a lot of people live in fantasy worlds, and fairy tale lands of adventure. And everything has to be so filled with drama. But in reality, life doesn't have to be like that. You get to choose what's important to you. You get to choose what you make big in your own life. One of the reasons people make these things so large or blow them out of proportion is fear. 94% of our fear is imagined. In other words, it's not real. It's not real. And because of fear, we create fear in others. Fear and anxiety can only create more of the same. Why do we blow these things up? Because you get attention. If that's the type of attention that you're seeking, get you some help. There is help for it. And for some people, it's almost like an addiction. You know, you take something very minute and make it so big, just it consumes you, your world, the things you do, the things you say, the thoughts you have, when a lot of times none of that is even necessary. By contrast, those of us who take the big things and make them small, that's an art. It takes a lot of maturity and wisdom and a lot of self discipline to be able to do such. To make big things small is usually a sign of a person who can manage themselves and therefore is easily able to manage situations around them. And as we, as a group, get better with being able to manage those things, we become better or greater than the situation itself. It's not good for your soul to let go of reality and delve into those things that you fear. It's not good for anyone. But what is good is to let go of the old attitudes, the preconceptions, the hurt, the pains, the grudges of yesteryear. Let them go. If we don't, they can dilute and pollute every moment of action that we are about to perform. And in that performance, also think about your visions, how you take things, how your perspective of life is. So many times we look for the negative or someone to blame, or we tend to fault find fault in everything, with everybody, with every situation. If we could just take a moment and accept everything for what it is and not bring in your past or what you've been through or who hurt you in the past or why they hurt you in the past. Just take everything for itself. Take everything, have face value for everything and reach it at face value. Your life could wholeheartedly change. Now, for whatever reason that you choose to exaggerate the situations, whether it be out of fear or whether it's out of panic or just wanting to have a little drama in your life, you got to remember that your ego is in control. That's your ego talking. That's not you. That's not what you want. Come away from that. You're not going to always be the center of attention. And sometimes it's hard for people to understand that you're not the center of attention, that you should pull away from certain things. It's in that case right there when you realize, okay, it's not about me. Life gets better. Life gets easier. Life is much sweeter. We cannot master a situation if we are slaves to overblown emotions. I am a very emotional being. I talk with my face. It's one of the things that I really have to work on. In my work environment, if there's something going on, or if there's a dramatic change, or just a bump in the road for us, everybody turns to look and see what my facial expression is going to be. 9 times out of 10, my forehead is folded because I'm trying to get an understanding of what's going on, why it's going on, where it's going from here. It's not necessarily that I'm angry or mad or what have you. And a lot of times, because I am, for lack of other words, so into whatever is going on, I get misread. If I frown too hard, what's wrong when there's nothing wrong? Why are you looking like that? When my mind could be somewhere else, thinking about something else. I have two older sons. I have grandkids. My daughter's off in college. I could be even thinking about what I want to eat for dinner. And my face may read it all. And they'll think, oh, she didn't like that change. Oh, she didn't. It was nothing to do with what's going on right at that moment. And because of the fold in my face or the wrinkle in my brow, the molehill that we are faced with becomes a mountain. And just with most mountains, people are afraid of them. People are afraid of the big situation, of the elephant in the room. They're afraid of the great changes or what have you. If we're grounded in a real sense of who we are, if we remain calm, controlled, and peaceful, if we are relaxed and centered instead of throwing fuel on the fire, then we'll sprinkle water on that given situation. When we remain stable, we make others around us feel safe and secure. If we allow ourselves to indulge in a rampage of thinking where one thought leads to another and another and another, or in the same second, we can decide to apply the brakes and call a halt and stop the wasting of your time, your thoughts, your mind, brain, your energy, because some situations don't even need all that you are given to it. Some situations only need a yes or no answer. And instead of giving that yes or no answer, we make it, oh, well, back in 1982, where a lot of people who I work with weren't even born in 82. So why worry about something in the past that we can't change, that we have no control over, or any of that? Just roll with the punches. Go along to get along. It's not even, sometimes the situations are not even that important. On last week, we had an incident with one of the restrooms. There was a sign placed on the door, don't use this bathroom. It became such a big issue. The people were frantic. Mind you, there are two other facilities, one in the middle of the warehouse and one toward the back. You might have to take 30 more steps to get where you got to go. No problem. Instead of panicking, just apply a little mindset. Just apply your mindset. There's a change. That molehill could not be a mountain in my life. The more we go into the expansion of the situation or event, the more life we give to it. If it's not important, or if you say it's not important to you, make sure that it's not important to you. Because you'll say, oh, that ain't important. That don't mean nothing. Da, 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 da. But if you keep talking about it, if you keep bringing it up, if you keep reliving the moment, you're giving it more life. You're feeding it. I'm not sure. One of the movies, uh, growing up in childhood, one of the movies that I watched was Little Shop of Horrors. It was supposed to be a scary movie, but it really wasn't scary. It was sort of goofy. But there was a plant on there, and the guy who took care of the plant name was Seymour. And just like these molehills in your lives can become mountains, this little plant, it was like a little Venus flytrap. When it was little, it was cute and tiny and sat on the shelf, but Seymour kept feeding him, feeding him, feeding him. And the plant even got to the point where it was like, feed me, Seymour. And Seymour fed the plant so much that it took over his life. That's just like with the molehills. If you feed the little situations, the little problems, if you feed it too much, it'll take over your life. It'll take over your day, your night, your in between. Just don't feed into it. Don't feed into it. We, as a person who has worked with children who had to learn coping skills, you often try to find what works for certain people. Everything doesn't work for everybody. But one of my lines was, don't feed into the negativity. The girls thought it was the funniest thing. And I couldn't understand why they thought it was so funny. But they was just like, because you call everything negative. No, I'm not saying everything is negative. Just don't feed into the negativity. If you don't feed it, it won't grow. Your molehill can't be a mountain if you don't pile dirt on it. It only stays a molehill, and that only gets so big. Before you start feeding your molehill, there's some things you need to ask yourself. Is this really necessary to do? Do you go into it hot-headed, or is it better for you to save your time, your energy, your mental space, and sometimes even your self-respect? When it's all said and done, you look back at yourself and wonder, was it even worth it? Was it really even that bad? Was the situation I was feeding into changing anybody's lives? I mean, mountains and molehills are some of the old sayings. They go back to old sayings like, I'm not sure if you've ever heard, maybe so. Don't be a worry wart. Don't sit up and stress about stuff that you can't control. Don't cry over spilled milk. Instead of crying over the spilled milk, get a towel and get it up. When you make a mountain out of a molehill, believe it or not, it's a toxic habit. And a lot of times it starts in childhood and carries over into your adult life, but it's on you to change. And it's okay to make a change. Because if you don't, it's going to affect your family, your relationship, your job. Sometimes just letting it run its course, is better than answering to it. You know, if you worry over, don't sweat the small stuff. That's another saying. Don't sweat the small stuff. This is a small. If you sweat the small stuff, this molehill. If you start sweating over it, that's when it grows into a mountain. Not everyone creates a habit of making huge problems out of small ones, but there are some people who do. There are some people who do. And not just sometimes, there are people who do it a lot. And if you listen to this, the way I break this down, it may help you in some way to avoid some of the negative confrontations, because you have control over yourself. It's not what is said or done. 9 times out of 10, it is really how you respond to it. DP Enterprises, the home of Fix It Dell. Do you need help finding a job or assistance with online production? Do you want a song written? Are you in need of private security? Would you like some personalized poetry or even a 501c3 created? If so, call Fix It Dell at 901-440-0335. Science Child is an organization dedicated to the enlightening of girls from ages 7 to 17 and handling issues with anger, aggression, and bullying. Our mission is to infiltrate schools, churches, and communities with the message of anti-bullying and create awareness about the lasting effects of aggression and bullying. If you are interested, or you know a girl from ages 7 to 17 that may be interested and benefit from this program, please contact us at www.sanschild.org. Again, that's www.sanschild.org. Choose you. So many decisions that you have to make. Confusing, overwhelming, scared you'll make a mistake, second guessing yourself, trying to see what to do. Whatever you decide, be sure to choose you. Life is to be lived, lessons to be learned. Give yourself a little credit. Collect what you've earned. Empower yourself. Take a mental break too. Wherever you go, be sure to choose you. You matter. You're worth it. What I say is true. In the end, you're gonna win, but you got to choose you. As I was saying, there are certain people who make molehills into mountains, but there are also reasons why they do this. Um, People who suffer with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is complicated and it's a very interesting disorder. And it can be severe or sometimes just random. But people who suffer with this illness can create huge problems out of little ones that can be easily rectified. This obviously is because OCD people they usually have to have their way. They have to check and recheck things and so many other little compulsive actions, like locking the door. They'll lock the door and check the door 4 or 5 times afterwards to make sure it's locked. It stands out in their lives, but that's the way they are. Unfortunately, suffering with OCD can damage your life by stealing so much of your time. And instead of letting things go, everything has to be just perfect. So, with the small incidents, such as your copier running out of colored ink, a person with OCD would have an issue with that because they need their printouts to have the color in it that they want, instead of everything just being in black and white or being grayscale. They need the color in the paper. Something that simple. So instead of just saying, okay, we're out of colored ink, we're going to print it out on black and white and pass this out. They will make such a big deal out of it. And it's not to be mean or not to be um, to cause any confusion, but they just want everything perfect. Another type of person would be the competitive person. One way that they make molehills into mountains is because they strive so hard to win. And if they don't win, they feel like that's a part of imperfection. They train hard, they work hard, and they even cheat sometimes because they have to win. When a person is that competitive, it becomes an issue. That makes a molehill into a mountain. What could be a small event may turn into the most important competition in the mind of the obsessive athlete. And you got to remember, all competitions aren't always in sports. When we hear competition or somebody competing, we're thinking either they're running or swimming or jumping. It could be at work. Sometimes competitive people are enraged by the success of others, especially if they feel like the person's success came from their ideas or their notions. I know it sounds complicated, but it is so true. Also, people with anxiety disorders and PTSD. If you suffer from one of those disorders, you may also see small problems as really large ones. They don't purposely do this, but in an anxious mind, you're always in a state of worry, you know.
Unlike the people with OCD, they're not trying to be perfectionists, but they see their molehills as attacks. And it's attacking them on every level. So they're doing the best they can to actually deal with what they have going on. And lastly, individuals who have control issues. If a person is trying to control others or control a situation, when they lose control, everything goes awry. A controlling person makes a molehill into the most ginormous mountain. Everybody needs to face their chairs to the left. And if one person says, well, I can't see with my chair facing that way, I'm going to tilt my chair. Everybody's chair needs to be. And they don't mean any harm by it, but that's just the way they are. It's a toxic behavior. And, if you know somebody like this, you might need to tell them. A lot of positive people what the problems, what they are head on. It's no issue with them seeing the problems. So when you're alone, as soon as you start to see it inflate, try to recognize what's happening. Try to figure out, is your problem really that bad? Will the will this matter in a day or two? If not, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. I myself suffer from depression, and on some days I'm on pins and needles. But again, I told you I had accountability partners. So if they see me not being my jovial self, they'll say to me, "Hey, Dale, come on back with us. Come on back here." But it takes support. It takes, having that backbone and a positive outlook. That could be the key to rectify all your mountains and make sure they stay molehills. But if you're exaggerating your problems, please, please, please know that you are not alone. In the worst case, get some professional help. There's nothing wrong with professional help. And together, we can move this mountain and live a very fulfilling life. Now, Matthew 11:25 through 30 reads, at that time, Jesus said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord in heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto the babes. Even so, Father, for it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but by the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. He can move mountains, y'all. Even the songs say, Lord, don't move my mountain. Give me the strength to climb. And don't take away my stumbling blocks, but keep me all the time. Mm. I said, Lord, I don't bother nobody. I try to treat everybody the same. But every time I turn my back, they scandalize my name. Now, folks, when my folks, they slay me, these things they will try to do, but Lord, don't touch them. But within their heart, make them give their life to you. That's the part right there. Mark 11:23. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Have a great one, y'all.